Hey, what is up, guys? Bluntguts here. This is a Watcher of Realms video. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel. I really appreciate it. I've got Yuri up on the screen right now. She is going to be on a 15x rate-up banner this weekend alongside Artemis. Also got the Ancient exclusive Nightmare Lord allegedly coming on Saturday. Neither of these heroes is up on the test server, so I don't have any way to actually show you any gameplay of them, but I am going to break down Yuri's skills. I'll do the same thing for the Nightmare Lord tomorrow, assuming that he is released on the schedule that we think he is going to be released. And I will get you some testing as soon as I am able to. But for right now, this is the best we can do. I'm going to break down her skills as well as her awakenings. Before we do that, hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to my channel if you are not already subscribed. I would certainly appreciate it. It is a great free way for you to support my content. So thank you in advance if that is something that you can do. Yuri, the Kitsune, the Fox Lady. She has 9 tails. I love the accuracy there. Very, very cool looking hero. Interesting looking hero. Definitely like, it'll give a little spin. Look at the tails on her. Really, really cool looking hero. She's got these like floating ribbons around her and stuff. I don't know. I like it. I like it a lot. Where should we start here? Let's go to the hero details. Let's look at her stats. That's probably the best way to get into her. So she is a marksman. She is a piercer and nightmare dual faction hero, which is awesome to see. I think only the second marksman, if I'm not mistaken, that is in the nightmare faction alongside Hatset. So that is huge. The nightmare faction typically only gets fighters, rarely tanks, no healers. We don't get healers in nightmare. Whatever reason, they're too strong, I guess, as is. They don't want to give it. And there's like a couple of mages, and Greed and Navras, I think, are the only mages that I can think of off the top of my head that are in the Nightmare faction. So typically a very kind of like narrow scope as far as the hero types that you can get in that faction. But we're adding to the ranged units, which is wonderful to see. I think that she may end up being somebody who's really good in Guild Boss 2, but we're gonna have to do some testing on her as well. Seems like all the heroes that are released these days are Guild Boss 2 at least capable, if not specifically designed for that content. So in any case, let's take a look at the basic stats here. Standard marksman attack range, 3 by 4 tile range. Not much to say about it other than that. As far as her HP is concerned, 11,045. That's relatively standard. Nothing really jumps out at me as far as that's concerned. Same with the attack, 3,725 base attack, which is right on par with, like, say, like a Hatset or a Hex or, you know, other single target marksmen. So she is built in the same vein. Defense, magic resist, we don't really care about that. She's a 12 cost unit. So again, very much she is in that standard kind of like single target marksman template. Block is 1, which, you know, we don't care about that. She's a platform unit. Redeployment time is 60. Her attack interval is 2 seconds, which again, very standard for a single target marksman. 100 attack speed base. Nothing really to write home about here at all. You know, we can go through these, but you can see them right now. There's nothing that really stands out. Crit damage is the same as it normally would be. We've got rage regen, auto, basic attack, and attack are all pretty much in line with other marksmen of her ilk. Let's take a look at her talent here. Every 5 basic attacks will trigger a Chaos Orb that deals 160% damage to the target and 4 surrounding enemies 1 time. After that, it's going to deal 50% damage 6 times to random targets in range. It also says deals 20% increased damage to airborne units. What will be interesting to test is whether or not this 20% increased damage to airborne units is specific to the talent damage, or if that is overall for her kit. So that's something we need to look into, obviously, because if she does 20% increased damage to airborne units across the board, that is a very significant buff and might make her relevant in a number of different areas. I'm thinking anti-air potentially as a piercer, that kind of thing. So we will have to look into that, but it seems like a solid mix on the talent of a bit of AoE followed by 6 hits of 50% damage, so 300% damage total to random targets. So, you know, kind of spread damage at that point. But if you only have 1 target, if you are dealing with a boss, for example, then you are going to get basically 460% damage every 5th basic attack for free. Not too shabby, like that. Her basic attack Deals 50% damage 2 times to random enemies in range, prioritizing airborne units. So again, she's got that standard marksman. It's going to prioritize airborne units before other folks. It is going to scale up to 60% damage 2 times, so very similar to Hatsut's basic attack. Doesn't have the bounce, obviously, that Hatsut does, but she does get some similar stuff. There's some parallels between her and Hatsut, that's for sure. Let's take a look at her ultimate. So the first thing I want to draw your attention to is this massive range that she has on the ultimate. She basically gets 3 extra tiles on the left, right, and at the end of her attack range for the ultimate, which is really, really cool. So she's got big, beefy range. It'll be interesting to see how this works with the Piercer Lord bonus. Is she going to get extended range on the end of this? I'm guessing that it just fills in these 2 empty squares on the left and the right at the end of the attack range on it, but we'll have to wait and see until we can actually deploy her somewhere. Looking forward to that. 800 rage cost, 8-second duration, 500 initial rage. When you do skill her up all the way, she will have a 700 rage cost, 10-second duration on this. Deals 5 hits of 55% damage base, goes up to 75% when fully skilled up. Damage per second to 1 enemy in range. When a target dies during the skill, gains 5% rage and targets 1 other enemy near the fallen target. Okay, let's break this down. So that means that she is going to be doing, at full skill ups, 75% damage 5 times per second, or 375% damage per second for 10 seconds, meaning that she's going to do 3,750% damage to 1 target over the course of the ultimate. It sounds like a lot. I'd like to test it to see exactly how that stacks up. I never really know how these percentages are going to manifest in game, but based on what we see on other heroes, that sounds like she's going to be doing a lot of damage. So I'm excited to see that. The other thing that is nice about it is that it does sound like it is going to switch targets. One thing that I find incredibly frustrating about Wukong is he does this massive number of hits. His ultimate does so much damage, but if the target does die from his ultimate, he doesn't switch targets. That does not seem to be the issue with Yuri, who is going to not only switch to another target if the initial target does die, but she's also going to gain 5% rage as a result of killing that target. It'll be interesting to test and see whether or not it will move to more than 1 target, meaning that if you killed 1 target, it's going to move on to the second. If you kill the second target, is it going to move on to a third one after that, and so on and so forth? Be very interesting to see. So very cool. Her first passive here, Vixen's Charm. Talent and ultimate inflict defense reduction on the target's hit for 3 seconds. You're going to get another 2 seconds on the duration, another 10% defense reduction, which at base is minus 15%. It's going to go up to 25% defense reduction, which is very, very solid. Not quite the best. 30% defense reduction is the highest that we currently have in the game, but 25% is no slouch, especially when it's just for getting hit with the talent or the ultimate. It sounds like the talent, if you have her built fast enough, is going to be up. This should be up almost constantly on the target. So very, very cool about that. 5-second duration when fully skilled up. So definitely like that. Defense reduction is huge in this game, especially at endgame, especially for the Nightmare faction, which is largely physical based. So you definitely want to have as much defense reduction as you possibly can. Of course, now, one thing I will say is that there are a lot of units in the Nightmare faction that already provide this debuff, so it is a bit redundant. If you do have somebody like Torador on the team providing 30% defense reduction, this is not going to really do anything for you, but it's not a bad thing. Not a bad thing to have some extra debuffs there to make sure that that is up on as many targets as possible. Her next passive, Seductive Glance. Each time the talent is triggered, increases attack by 8%. It's going to go up to 10% at full skill ups. Stacking up to 2 times, it's going to go up to 4 times at full skill ups, meaning that this is going to max out at a 40% attack increase when fully skilled up. Very, very cool. When reaching max stacks, resets after 20 seconds. So considering how quickly this should theoretically stack up, I think that's pretty reasonable. You get 20-second duration once it gets to max stacks. It's going to take you, let's say, at a 1-second attack interval. You're talking about, 20 seconds to max it out. Another 20 seconds duration after that. Resets. So, you're going to be cycling through it relatively quickly. You should have some level of this up almost the entire fight whenever she is in the fight. So that is great to see. Going to be significant. And I think that the weakness of single target marksmen is typically that they don't have enough base attack. They have the lowest base attack in the game on average. So it is good to see that she is going to get some love in that department, and it's going to help her overcome enemy defense, especially when you combine that with her defense reduction and things like that. I think she will be somebody who is going to be relevant in harder content in this game where defensive values are higher, and she needs that extra defense reduction and extra attack to overcome those defensive values and still do compelling damage. So very cool on that. And then finally, as a bonus here, Song of the Exiled. She is a bonded hero with Kigiri, who is somebody that I kind of slept on a little bit when he was released, but he is certainly one of the best, if not the best, single target damage dealers in the game right now. One of the best boss killers in the game right now. She's going to synergize really well with him. Obtain the hero Kigiri the Undying to unlock the following bonus effect. Chaos Orb, which is her talent, triggered by the talent, deals 100% increased damage to the main target. After dealing damage, restores 10% HP to 2 friendly units within 3 tiles of the Chaos Orb. This effect doesn't affect the hero HP. So if you look at the talent to the right of the passive here, you can see that the initial hit does 160% damage to the target and 4 surrounding enemies at one time. So I don't know if this is additive or multiplicative as far as the 100% increase, but we're looking at either the initial hit being 260% if the 100% is additive, or 320% if it is multiplicative. So either way, more single target damage. Obviously, in single target damage situations like boss killing situations, this is just going to be a flat doubling or plus 100% damage for the ultimate, which is cool. You know, it's not overpowered by any means. I don't think this is going to be like a game changer, but it is extra damage. We're never going to scoff at that. And then if we look at the other portion here, after dealing damage, restores 10% HP to 2 friendly units within 3 tiles of the Chaos Orb. I mean, it's cool to have some passive healing, especially in a faction where there are no healers. For whatever reason. I'm talking about Nightmare. Obviously, Piercer does have some healers. You know, it's some extra survivability. I don't think it's going to be super impactful, but considering that the talent should trigger about once every 5 or 6 seconds, you know, you're looking at decent healing going out, top-off healing going out. You know, nothing crazy by any means. She's not going to be able to save anybody, you know, who's taking steady damage with this, but she might be able to keep people up. So that is nice to see. Let's take a look at her awakenings here. The A1, when dealing damage, there is a 10% chance of inflicting stun on the target. The stun is a 0.5 second stun, so not a long duration stun, pretty standard duration from what we see in this game typically. But you know, I think this just adds to her Guild Boss 2 viability. It's a little bit of crowd control. It's not going to be reliable. I think given her attack speed, you know, you're looking at probably during the ultimate, probably pretty significant. She's going to do 50 hits during the ultimate, so you should get 5 stuns out of that. Now, we might be in a situation similar to with Wukong, where the stuns are coming too fast to really count as debuffs on the boss. In Guild Boss 2, we'll have to wait and see how that kind of manifests in-game. I would be skeptical of how viable this is going to be in GB2 until we actually see some testing in-game. So that will be something, obviously, we want to check on. A2 is plus 300 attack. That is big for her. That's going to put her over 4,000 attack. An extra base attack for a unit that has relatively low base attack already is definitely welcome. So love that. The A3, damage increases as the number of targets in the basic attack range decreases. Damage increase ranges from 8% to 40%. So I am going to make some assumptions here, but essentially what this is saying is that you're going to get a 40% damage increase when you have 1 target in your attack range. That is interesting. I mean, that's a lot. Again, we don't know if that's additive or multiplicative, but if it's multiplicative, that is a massive increase. That is huge. Either way, it's pretty substantial, especially when you're talking about boss killing. It seems like she has a lot of stuff in her kit that is going to make her a more effective boss killer. I don't know that she's going to be useful for other things necessarily, but it will be interesting to kind of test her and see how she stacks up. There's so many different bonuses in here. It's hard to tell how they are all going to kind of come together. So she's going to take some testing to figure it out. But based on what this is saying, 40% damage increase when there is 1 target in her range. And then if the low end is 8%, I'm going to assume that means if there's 5 or more targets in her range, that is going to be reduced to 8%. And then it is going to be for each target that is removed from those 5, she's going to gain an 8% increase. So at 4, it should be a 16% increase. At 3, it should be 24%. At 2, it should be 32%. And then at 1, it should go up to 40%. So yeah, either way, I mean, it's a lot of damage. So that is cool to see. The A4 is plus 8% penetration. Gotta love that. That is really cool. Love the penetration on the A4. That is the best one to get. The A5 reduces AoE damage taken by 50%. This can be triggered up to 1 time every 20 seconds. You know, I do and I don't like this, honestly. One, I think this is just purely for Guild Boss 2 right now. I mean, there's probably some other areas in the game where this could help out. This is going to take one AoE hit every 20 seconds and reduce the damage by 50%. Now, if there's no AoE damage coming out, you get absolutely nothing out of the A5. I don't love that. At the same time, the A3 is really, really nice. That is the big one, it seems like, as far as damage is concerned. And I would much rather have the damage for the unit unlock at A3 versus A5, so you only have to pull only have to pull 4 copies of her in order to really upgrade that damage significantly. At A5, you know, you're getting some extra utility, but you don't necessarily have to get her that high to make her viable or to get most of the use out of her. So in that sense, I do like it. But at the same time, I also feel like a very situational A5 kind of sucks for somebody who did pull 6 copies of her. So, whales out there, I don't know that this is the one that you want to go heavy on. I would say you probably want to shoot for A3, but that is just my perspective. Yeah, you know what? I honestly, I feel like we got a lot of decisions to make again. They're making January and February are going to be big months. We've got rumors of a exclusive hero coming out in February, probably for Valentine's Day. So yet another limited hero. We've got Yuri now. She looks pretty solid. I'm going to reserve judgment until I test her. So I don't know. You know, honestly, like I was saying before, there are so many different bonuses in her kit that I feel like it is necessary to test her before I make any kind of determination about how viable she's going to be, how good she is going to be. But on paper, she looks like a really solid hero. Looks like she's going to do a lot of damage. And I think the really compelling thing about her is that she is a Nightmare unit, and there aren't very many Nightmare marksmen or just ranged units in general for the marksman faction. So it is good to see that. Dual faction membership with a Piercer gives her some versatility as well. So you got to love all that. She seems like a really solid hero. I think the question you're going to have is whether or not she is worth going after when you've got Beelzebub on the horizon, when you've got you know, this limited I was potentially talking about coming in about a month. So there's going to be some decisions that we all have to make as far as how we want to prioritize our summons. That is up to you. This feels a little bit to me like bait before they release Beelzebub, which they've clearly been kind of holding in their back pocket for an extended period of time because he has been out on the 400 server since I think August or September or something like that. And there's a lot of hype around him because he is kind of the new inspiration hero who is, I mean, in my opinion, is going to be better than Dolores. I know some people who question how much better. I personally think a lot better, but that's just me. In any case, guys, let me know what you think. Are you going to be pulling this weekend? Is she going to fill a niche for you? I know if you haven't beaten Nightmare Faction Trials, this is somebody who's definitely going to help you do that. But that is kind of old content at this point. She is yet another Guild Boss 2 hero. I don't know that we need any more of those, honestly, but maybe you do. The bond skill with Kigiri is nice, but I will say, and probably something I should talk about before I close this out here, Kigiri's bond skill, Path of the Exiled, is purely a utility one. It does not increase his damage at all. So obtain the hero Yuri Foxfire Kitsune to unlock the following bonus effect. When Sweeping Strike is triggered, restores 10% HP. When Ember Strike is triggered, restores 25% HP. So, I mean, it's self-sustained, which is nice. I will complain about that. It's not going to change much for him, though. I don't know that just getting her for the bond skill on Kigiri is necessarily worth it. You'll have to be the judge of that. I don't know where you necessarily need this extra utility for Kigiri. He has a massive HP pool. He has the ability to use his ultimate and ignore damage completely. And most of the time, really all the time that you are using him right now, he is going to be in a situation where he has a healer that is going to be covering him. So I don't know that this really enhances his utility at all anywhere, but maybe there is some content that is coming where this will become important. But the reason I show this is because I just don't know whether or not it's worth it to go after Yuri simply to get this bond skill for Kigiri. Food for thought. Let me know what your plans are. Let me know what you think of Yuri. What would you like to see me test when she does become available on the test server? I will try to have a video out, I assume, in the next couple days. I can't imagine they're going to wait much longer to put her on the test server, but we are still kind of awaiting that. So in any case, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Please do click that thumbs up button. Please do subscribe if you did enjoy this video. I will catch you all next time.